one thing about being a woman is if you are assertive, it's not necessarily very popular. A man who's assertive is wonderful. He's a natural leader. A woman who's assertive is called bad names. Yeah, been there, done that. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. Don't be less just because it makes the boys uncomfortable.
Welcome to Women and Work, the show where we take an inside look at how women are overcoming our own unique challenges as we grow our careers, businesses, or families, or all of the above. I'm Diane Moca, founder and CEO of the MomSub Childcare app, and I want you to know that work can fit your life. That's exactly what our guests have done. It may sound simple, but it's not easy. Today, I'm with Lee Kunkel. She's been an attorney running her own practice for more than 30 years. She's also serving on her local township board and previously served on the Kane County board for 8 years. Bonnie, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here today.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So I want to know first off, as someone who has been out in the workplace for decades, what were among the biggest challenges that you faced because you were a woman?
Jeez. You know, it's really not popular to talk about that. But if we want to go far enough back in time that it doesn't offend any of the current people, I remember when I would go to the courthouse, and often I would be the only female attorney in the building. So I got started at a time where women being lawyers was not the norm. Now, most of the law school graduates are female. Things have come a long way, baby, as the cigarette ad used to say.
But just because there are more women, does that mean that the challenges for women in the law are gone, or do they still exist?
In the law, you mean as
an attorney,
as lawyers?
Being able, if you want to move on to other positions like attorneys often do as judges or, other things like that?
Well, women are more frequently becoming judges now, but an awful lot of benches, different counties, different levels of government, the judges are more male than female. And it's just a little bit of a different perspective, shall we say.
So you said earlier when we were chit-chatting that you were thinking of becoming a doctor, but instead you decided to become a lawyer. Why? Did
My
being
mom.
a woman have anything to do with that?
No, well, one woman had a lot to do with it, my mom.
Your mom.
My mom. My mom told me I should be a lawyer, and I'm like, why? And she's like, you would make a good lawyer. Actually, you know what? I think I would have made a good doctor. But I thought about it, and I was not very familiar with the medical field back then. I thought, well, I don't really like blood, and I really don't like people dying. And, well, there are some things that I could maybe give up. But, the lawyer thing, well, one, I was petrified of public speaking. That was an interesting challenge to work through. But the other one, I said, Mom, I don't want to go into politics. And she's like, oh, you don't have to do that. I'm like, you promise? You promise? A lot of lawyers go in to become politicians. You don't have to be a politician. You promise? She said, yes. Yeah. Until I got older, and then she said, oh, yeah, you should run. Okay.
She said you should run.
Yes, she did.
And many others did. Tell us why you ended up running for office. In addition to, you continued your work in the law for your own practice, right?
Yeah, of course. Because back in the old days, Kane County was very Republican. And it was suggested to the perhaps a dozen of us who were regular Democrats getting together in the county, who back then the joke was, I'm not part of an organized political party, I'm a Democrat. But it was suggested that we get together and try to imagine what a successful candidate would be. And one of the things that we thought was be very important would be for that person to be a woman, and also to be well educated, also to have lived in the community for a long time, and preferably to have been involved in various different organizations. And there were probably some other qualities too, but um, when they were done, they all looked at me and said, "It's you." And I'm like, "Oh, crap."
You fit all the classifications.
Yeah.
And when you talk about many people got together and thought it would be important for a woman to run, there weren't as many women in office. A lot of people hear that and they think, oh, you wanted to check a box, it's all about DEI. But it's not so much about that. Why is it important for a woman to be in office as opposed to a man if they both have equal qualifications?
Because um, equ- qualifications are not equal. Individuals vary tremendously. And if you've never seen a problem, you never imagine that a problem exists and that you should address it. I mean, I think that's probably the shortest, clearest answer.
Hmm. And women experience problems in the world that men don't experience.
Correct.
And they experience them in different ways.
Absolutely, positively. A lot of things were set up, particularly in the professions, on the assumption that you have a spouse back home who's picking up the slack and who's looking after the kids. And of course, the professional never gets pregnant. That's somebody else in the house who does that. So a lot of things needed to change in order to give women a better opportunity to participate in the upper echelons of the workforce.
Hmm. So when you became an attorney, did you have ideas and plans for your personal life? Did you want to get married? Did you want to have kids? Did you not even think about that and you were just focused on career? What were you thinking in terms of the other aspects of life besides career?
Wow. I wasn't in love. Therefore, I wasn't, at that moment. So I wasn't thinking about marriage and I wasn't thinking about children.
Hmm.
And that's the answer.
Hmm.
That's the answer.
And then life happened and you fell in love.
Yeah, but that didn't work out.
Okay. So you were married.
I was.
Was it for a short time?
It was.
Ah, okay.
Probably what was a bigger factor in my life is that my parents were older. Uh, they always had been older. Parents, by definition, are older, but they were older than was common for someone my age, and don't have relatives locally, and don't have siblings. So the burden of their declining health and their needs, of course, fell mostly to me.
Mm.
Originally, my mom was in better health than my dad, and so she took on most of that burden. But, eventually
Hmm.
I was the only one left to look after mom.
Hmm. Hmm. So you had aging parents and
Yes.
had to take on that nurturing role.
Yes.
So when you got married, was there talk? Did you think about having children, or were you like, I'm just going to take this kind of a step at a time? At any point, did you say,
Well,
I really love my career, it takes my all, I don't think I want to have a family because I don't know if I can do those two things?
no, actually, it was more at the point that I got married, I need to look after my mother.
Oh, okay. So that took precedence.
It did.
And then
You
your
have
marriage
to, you
did,
have, you have,
right.
you have to,
So that
you-
was many years of
Mhm.
taking care of them, and then your marriage, it didn't last, and then you had this constant in your life, your practice.
correct.
And did law become something that, it paid the bills and it's what I did, or did it really become a passion? Or was it always that way when you started going to law school? Did you
Well,
find a love of it?
I never thought of law as a passion.
Okay.
Although I suppose I could say that I certainly do appreciate it. Um, my work, I really just thought of as helping people.
Mm.
And this is the way that I could do it.
Hmm.
This is how I was trained. I never expected to be a family law attorney. It's not something that I studied in law school, that's for certain. But when I got out of law school, that's what law firms did with their female associates, if indeed they had them. I wanted to be a personal injury attorney, but that was very macho. And honestly, I was watching an episode of Matlock just a month or two ago, and she is an much older lawyer, and she was in a deposition or something, and she heard somebody talk about how her opportunities had been limited because of her sex. And then Maddie Matlock, as the character's named, said she remembered similarly. Now, their situation had to do with sexual harassment, and she had gotten out of what she wanted to do in her law firm because she'd been harassed, and so she went into something else. She wound up doing contracts instead of litigation. And I was there with a friend, and then during the commercial, I said, you know, that kind of happened to me too, but in a very different way. I wasn't harassed, but I was pushed. And then once you start doing it, what I found when I went out on my own is those are the clients that came to me, the people who wanted a female divorce attorney.
Mm-hmm. So that became your specialty.
Just by accident.
Mm-hmm. And then it became something that you really invested in and cared about.
And I was good at it.
You felt like you were caring for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking care of people who might not get their fair share, who might get taken advantage of.
People who just wanted to roll over and be taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those people came to me a lot, and I would tell them, I won't do that for you. Oh, I just want to give, usually it's women, I just want to give him everything and move on. Mm-hmm. I heard that so many times, and I'm like, no.
Why do you advise them that it's better to fight, to drag it out, to perhaps cause stress in life? Taking a devil advocate sort of perspective, but some people might think, well, aren't there some positive aspects to just moving on and just accepting whatever is offered?
Are there some positive aspects? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the other person happy. And you can say it takes less time. Mm-hmm. And you can say, truly, yes, it could be less in attorney's fees. But when you walk away with absolutely nothing and no safety net, you know, as a society, there's not much of a safety net for single women who have not had jobs, whose experience has been solely housewife or mother. Mm-hmm. And when you have helped buy the house, you have helped put together the business, you have been contributing so that someone could get that 401k or that pension. Why should you be a drag on society and have no place to go because you're giving away something that you earn just as much as someone else? Mm-hmm. That's number one. And number two is, and if they're children, what are you giving your children? What do you have to give your children?
What message are you giving your children?
And that's number three.
Your girls and your boys.
And that's the number three. Mm-hmm. What are you teaching your children?
Mm-hmm. So as you were dealing with all of this, did that at any point make you consider a Murphy Brown approach? You're talking about Matlock, right? And I think of Murphy Brown, and years ago it was controversial when that character decided to have a child, even though she was not married. Was it just something that was not in the realm of possibilities that interested you? Or was it something where you said, you know, in order to be the lawyer that I want to be, I've got to focus my life on that and not on other things?
It just wasn't something that it was in my head.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you believe that you looked for other things after you were done taking care of your aging parents? Because obviously that was a huge amount of time and effort and energy. Or were open to other things that were beyond just your career? I mean, do you think women can have a full, satisfying life with just focusing on work? Or do you think there needs to be other aspects of life? You know, maybe why you ran office, or maybe, I don't even know, maybe you started a local organization, or, you know, what other things did you do? Or did you think were important to sort of add that color to life besides just the
Oh my
career?
goodness. I've done so many things. I don't remember what
So you had, so you did do other
Oh, of
aspects of life.
course.
Yeah.
For example, I remember being CASA, court-appointed special advocate, both as an attorney and as a straight-out advocate, having my my kids who I would visit in their foster homes. So I did a lot of work at Hesed House, including being one of the people who started a legal clinic there. I
A
mean,
homeless shelter, local homeless shelter.
yeah,
Yeah.
Hesed House
Yeah.
is the homeless shelter. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Ah.
Yeah, there's always something to do and something to start and something to be. So just, helping where I can.
Mm-hmm. And so, what would you say to women who are in that earlier phase in life where their career is everything, but maybe they're wondering, like, what else? What's next? How do I know? How do I have a fulfilling life? Because, Bonnie, you've got a long way to go, but you've certainly had, through these decades, a fulfilling life, it sounds like.
Well, I would say get out of your house, and we used to call it networking. Go to any meetings that interest you and talk to people, because that's where you're going to find people who think like you, people who don't think like you, and can open you up to other possibilities. And where are you going to say, gee, this really interests me, this is something I want to pursue more? I think that one-on-one meetings between people really spark some of the best collaborations and new ideas.
Hmm. And do you do anything, or have you in the past done anything to help sort of forge the way for other women? Even all the years that you were in the law, do you feel like you and other women helped pave the way for women now?
I just don't think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm sure the answer is yes,
Mm-hmm.
but I I mostly think about individuals. Um, and if we're talking about groups, I don't want to limit my efforts to one particular sex or color or economic status.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the answer is yes, but I don't know what. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think even just talking about it, like you said, meeting one on one with people,
Hmm.
just letting them know what you've done, you might not even realize sometimes when you're inspiring others.
Well, I guess I have because people have told me that I have.
Oh.
But it always surprises me. In fact, I remember at some point, and this is kind of wild, um, especially for like a Catholic girl, a friend called up and said, "Oh, I want you to speak at my church on Sunday." And I'm like, "What?" So there I am speaking at a Black Baptist church, and I've never, of course, done anything like this before. But I remember talking to somebody many years later. I was at a dinner, and he came up to me and he said, "Thank you so much. You really inspired me. I never thought that there was any place in politics that interested me, and now you open my eyes to other opportunities." So yeah, you you just go about doing your work and hoping that people take away from it what they need.
Mm-hmm. Do you think sometimes women are more hesitant to take credit for, even some of the things we've talked about,
Oh
forging
yes.
the way, that don't step into their confidence in the way that men do? You talk about being shy, but some of that may have been learning to be confident in yourself. And what would you say to women who go through that now, even?
Well, one thing about being a woman is if you are assertive, it's not necessarily very popular. A man who's assertive is wonderful, and he's a natural leader. A woman who's assertive is called bad names. Yeah, been there, done that. Um, do it anyway. Do it anyway. Don't be less just because it makes the boys uncomfortable.
I love that. That's great parting wisdom to share with our audience. And I thank you for that and for everything that you've shared today on Women in Work. If you were inspired by Bonnie's story, remember to share it with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe to meet our next amazing guest. If you want to invest in a solution to the childcare crisis, you can check out MomSub's equity crowdfunding campaign through Silicon Prairie's crowdfunding platform, or connect with MomSub on LinkedIn or other social media platforms. Remember, your career, your choices, and your success are yours to define. Keep pushing boundaries and spreading your love and encouragement to other women who need it.